All right, well, everyone, thank you for tuning in. This is somewhat of a impromptu podcast today. Um, it is Jack Wannon here, and I'm alongside my coworker, my colleague, and my best friend, Gavin. Gavin, how you doing?
I'm great. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm so excited to talk about Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, so the one thing that I like to do, which uh is feels like work because it's podcasting, and we do podcasting as part of our professions, but isn't work, is talk about wrestling. So we're gonna be doing that today. We're gonna be talking about Wrestle Kingdom, New Japan's biggest event of the year, and the real start to the pro wrestling calendar every single year. I mean, obviously, there was already some big events. Noah had a card a few days ago, but if you were to ask anyone, like, where does the wrestling calendar start, they would probably say Wrestle Kingdom. This card, because of New Japan's long-term booking, tends to sort of be a culmination of what they've done the entire year. A lot of tournaments give you a title shot on this card. A lot of storylines that are just built from the start of the year sort of end. So I feel like this card in general is a reflection of how the year went for the promotion. So just to start, Gavin, I want to hear your thoughts, then I'll give mine. What are your thoughts on this card and its quality, and taking into account that and how it talks about the entire year? What are your thoughts on how this year went for New Japan?
Yeah, I guess I'll start with the year. Like for me personally, it's been pretty hard. I'm gonna be honest to watch New Japan at times throughout the past couple years, just because some of the booking and the lack of crowd when you have the North American stuff. Like if you watch wrestling in North America on a weekly basis, there's the crowd and it's hard to sort of switch back and forth. But I sort of got jumped right back into New Japan during Autumn Attack, and I thought that was one of the best shows of the year, like a late contender for show of the year. And that card was amazing. And it just felt like New Japan was back. Like I think that was a pretty common sentiment of things were going well through the summer. Like G1 was okay. Like I wasn't a huge fan of Okada not defending the briefcase at all. Like he just is gonna get challenged. But and then they did we get to Autumn Attack and it's like boom, this is it feels like New Japan again, and Wrestle Kingdom with cheering is gonna be so much better. I'm so hyped for that. And just the card itself is obviously we'll get into it more, but I think it's as close to a 10 out of 10 card as you can get. I mean, the never open weight match is kind of a blemish on the card for me. I think there's better matches to make, and the main event, I can't even lie, it's the match that I'm least interested in on the card, just because I think that's there's so many other things happening, like the way that story is going. But other than that, I think it's as close to a perfect card as you can get, and it should be pretty awesome, and it'll definitely be worth staying up the whole night for. But what do you think?
Yeah, well, just to start with the year, full disclosure, I was someone who sort of got in late. I started watching again around the G1. And it was for the exact same reason that you mentioned it. I was someone who was really into New Japan for years, and it just felt like the pandemic was this thing which just really drag them to a halt when it comes to quality. I mean, a big thing was that the crowd were only allowed to clap, and that they were very limited crowds, so it took so much out of the atmosphere. Especially when I had the option of tuning into other wrestling where there were crowds that could cheer. Um, they did a lot of outside the box booking. Their roster certainly did change during the pandemic. So that was a lot of things that took me out of it. But um, this year I started to feel that their roster was really good again, and that things were really turning around for them. So I started watching around the G1, and the G1 was really good. I personally really enjoyed it. I thought there were some really great matches in it. Uh, there were some things which didn't work out. Putting some people in the G1 can always be a bit of an experiment compared to putting other people in who are trusted and can deliver in big matches. But overall, I've enjoyed the year so far from what I've seen, and it does feel like after a couple years of really struggling, they are turning things around. When it comes to this card, this is most definitely a Wrestle Kingdom quality card. I wouldn't go as far as say it's 10 out of 10, but I think there are, the big matches that you want out of it. And, sometimes when I look at a card like Wrestle Kingdom, I want to look at it and almost be like overwhelmed by how many good things are on it. And I feel like that's what you get with this, where, you think about so many great matches that you almost forget about other matches which are also happening in the night. Like I look at the card and I think of Jay White versus Okada or Osprey versus Omega, But then I also forget that we're also getting like Kairi versus Tam Nakano, or like we're getting I was about to say Carl Anderson. He's not getting the mention there. Or we're getting like the junior tag team title match, like Catch 2-2 versus Chaos, Leo Rush and Yo. Like I think that's a really good match. But yeah, I guess, this is certainly a recovery for them compared to the past 2 years. And I guess that's sort of a good way to also just describe how they've had this year, in my opinion. So there's a lot of matches, so we're just going to get right into it. The pre-show has three matches. We're just going to quickly glaze over this. Really not much to say about two of them. Well, I guess maybe all three of them. The first one I want to mention is the annual New Japan Rambo. So I'm kind of confused about this. So the winner gets to challenge the King of Pro Wrestling champion Shingo Takagi, who his trophy's being turned into a belt or something like that. I'm a little confused about the details there. And I'm also a little confused about what this means on the card. Like, I assume that whoever wins this Rumble is going to challenge at a later date. But I'm also confused because there were some rumors that Takagi would be like on AEW this week, but he's not on
There is?
AEW. That's what people were saying, yeah. But well, the thing is that he's off this card and he's a huge name.
Yeah. Well, because it says I'm reading it on the website here and it says, this year the number of entrants is a mystery, but we do know the final four participants will advance to a four-way match at New Year Dash on January 5th to determine the first KOPW 2023. So I think it resets after like Shingo
Oh,
is in
so
the,
Takagi's probably in this.
yeah, so
Oh.
he's like the 2022 champion and like um yeah, I would imagine he's gonna be in this match, which is just kind of like I don't know. I thought they could have had something better for him, but that's cool.
I want to go through one thing for this match, and that's the chronology of our guesses for who a surprise entrant will be, which have been thwarted in the past few days. So I'm gonna go first and say that my big pick was I thought not to win, but just to appear was that Tom Lawler would be in it, and I thought, okay, Tom Lawler, he's booked on this Anoki Bombaye event where he's facing Ibushi. He made his debut for New Japan Japan this year after being a champion in their US promotion, and he's in his all of his, I mean, the booking seems to indicate that they really like him. They gave him a dream match of his where he tagged during their Stardom X New Japan card, and the fans seem to like him. So I was like, he's in the country. He's going to be that, some sort of a fun surprise for people. He's probably going to be on the card. But then he tweeted the other day that he was spending his last afternoon there. He was on his flight back to the US. So there went mine. Can you share your pick and what made it possibly less likely?
Yeah, I guess like Tom Lawler was a guy that I thought for sure. And sometimes I know like the wrestlers do like those swerves where they're like, yeah, I'm getting on a plane now, but they don't actually get on
Maybe
the
I'm
plane.
getting
But like
work. Who knows?
I can't imagine that like Tom is gonna pull that. But I think like I don't have anyone big that I've like put it in there. I don't know, like I can't imagine there's gonna be any like AEW guys in that like Rambo, but like Cheeseburger's a guy I always have on the bingo card because I feel like he's been in it before and it's like he is not up to much these days, so I feel like he could be in it. But like, I guess you got to pick like four, like the final four. But like, ELP is the guy like I think who's probably gonna
Mm.
like win the whole thing. And I think like the four way, like I'm sure it'll be like Shingo, ELP, and then like two like other good people for that New Year Dash
Is
event. But
is
I just like
is KOPW going to be open weight?
yeah, KOPW is open weight.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't think of four people off the top of my head that would be in there. I mean, all I know is that Shingo is going to be in the mix because it would just not make sense for him to not be in the mix. I kind of don't like the
Yeah,
idea. I
usually
don't like
agree.
the idea of like the top four winning something when it's a rumble and one person's going to win. It's
Yeah.
like, are they like, what if it was just like the match ends when there's four people left in the ring?
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I was thinking. Like, they're not just gonna stop the match, be like, okay, four people, shake hands, and
yeah.
yeah,
So I don't know. I mean, that's the one part where there's gonna be surprises and some unpredictable stuff. I hope there is some cool surprise entrances because they've done that before, and I just, it would be nice to have that, I guess. Um,
Rocky will be in it for sure. Probably, I would imagine. Like, I bet you
you think
they'll have
so?
like some New Japan strong, like Clark Connors, maybe. I don't know. Like,
Mm. Yeah, I mean, anyone who has been like watching social media probably has a better guess than us, but yeah, that's gonna be like it's kind of one of the things I'm most excited for on the card, which is stupid because it's not like important or like, but like just the unpredictability because I'm such like a Royal Rumble mark. So Um,
Mhm.
that has to be in there. There's this exhibition match where Ryohei Oiwa is going up against this guy Oleg Bolton. He's an amateur wrestler. I read up on him. He's an amateur wrestler who New Japan has some sort of contract with, and he was at some point supposed to go to the Olympics, I think, to represent Kazakhstan, but then an injury stopped him, and he's been training wrestling for the past year. So he got introduced at an event in October by Yuji Nagata. So this is like his first wrestling match. I think that it's like the match has like a limit of like 3 minutes or 5 minutes, so you're not going to see much. But he's also going to wrestle in front of like a a crowd that's like 1/3 of the Tokyo Dome because it's like going to be in the middle of the day. But that's also on the exhibition or on the pre-show. And the third pre-show part is I think this is their Antonio Inoki sort of tribute. It's a tag match. Is this on the pre-show? The Kojima, Makabe, and
Yeah, I think
Nagata.
it's on the pre-show.
Yeah, so it's them versus Suzuki, Fujinami, and Tiger Mask. I really don't have anything to say about this. I mean, it'll probably be a nice tribute, but um, I'm not expecting like a 5-star match out of this.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fun. Like it'll be a good chance to like get some snacks before the
Oh no, don't say
show.
that. No, it'll be nice.
Yeah,
Um,
it'll be nice. Like it's nice that they can get like all like the New Japan dads plus Suzuki. I'm not gonna call him a New Japan dad yet, but it's nice that they can get them like all in the building just to do something. Because like I don't know, I think Kojima's pretty fun to watch wrestle, and like Suzuki's kind of like doing like he's doing all Japan now too, and like he's sort of just going wherever. So
I think
yeah,
that
it'll be fun.
you can put together fun matches with the dad fighters when you put them in these bigger tags, because then you don't need like one person to carry a match start to finish. That everyone can just sort of get their spots in, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I like Makabe, so it'll be it'll be good. Hopefully it just doesn't go really long.
So the main card, if I'm reading this card order correctly, the main card is going to kick off with the junior heavyweight tag team match. So it's the champions Francesco Akira and TJP catch 2-2, and they're going to be defending their belts against the junior tag league winners Leo Rush and Yo. So I mean, I just want to hear your thoughts about this match. I'm personally like this is one of the matches where I'm the most excited for on this card.
Yeah, junior title, classic like Wrestle Kingdom opener. I feel like the juniors always have like the most like potential to steal the show. And yeah, I'm really hyped for this match as well. Like Catch 22. I really like them as well. Like some people have said on social media they like the best junior tag team since the Young Bucks, which is like a pretty big show to be compared to the Bucks. And like at first I was kind of like upset that Ace Bay weren't in the finals, gonna be honest, or weren't in this match, but also like you got to reward like the loyal, like Yo is a dojo guy, like Leo Rush was in strong for quite a while. So it's like it's nice to see them getting that spot. And like I'm not like the biggest fan of Leo Rush as a wrestler, but it's cool to see him like back in action, like getting this cool moment, especially like kicking off the show is pretty important because it kind of sets the tone for the whole night. And I'm torn on the pick, but I'd really like to see Catch 22 retain the belts in this one.
Mm. Now, I'm curious to know your thoughts about this tag team of Leo and Yo because heading into the tag league, I was actually surprised they won because both tag leagues they tend to sort of to fill out the roster of the leagues and to sort of get people who can take pinfalls. They make these like makeshift teams where it's like tag teams who aren't really real tag teams. And even though they did an angle at New Japan's New York show before, and um, you know, these are both New Japan guys. This did feel like a makeshift team to me compared to the other like a lot of the other ones. So I was sort of surprised that they won. But I want to hear like what are your thoughts about this them as like a tag team?
Yeah, I think like the thing I always saw about Yo when he was a show is like Show was the better wrestler and he had like a way cooler like personality and the gimmick, but also like Leo Rush is like you saw what happened in WWE when they put him with Bobby Lashley. It was like instantly like this great connection. I think Leo, it's like a huge like badge of honor for him. It's like you could put him with pretty much anybody and it's like he'll make it entertaining. And I know a lot of the sentiment with Yo is that like he's gotten more of a personality now and he has like a direction and that like maybe the singles route wasn't for him, but like him and Leo Rush could form this like great junior tag team. But also like people forget that Yo has like been a junior tag like champion before, like when they were in Roppongi 3K. So he's at like the championship caliber. I just think that like maybe him being like a singles guy on his own like isn't the route for him, but like Leo has like the personality and like Yo has like the great textbook like New Japan style. And like, yeah, I did think they were a filler team at first, but it's cool to see that they've like gelled. And like Leo is like carrying chaos. Like no one really like in New Japan reps like chaos these days, except for like Leo. So it's kind of cool to see that like, because I know everyone always jokes like, okay, Suzuki gun disbanded, like disband chaos next. So it's like cool to see that Leo's like out here repping chaos really hard and like takes pride in like being in a faction when you barely see anybody like repping for chaos these days.
Yeah, they're the only team on this card which are representing Chaos in any form. So there's so that's gonna be a really good opener in my opinion. I think that I don't know, like I don't know who's gonna win in this. I feel like I'd probably go for Catch 2 retaining. I think that they want to give them a longer reign, especially because United Empire have a lot of belts right now, and I think that they still want to keep this long-term storyline of like not United Empire taking over, but them, well, I guess maybe them taking over. And you kind of felt that vibe like a few months ago, um, when they were really working as like this big unit faction in the promotion. So I think they're going to win this, but I think this is definitely like potential to steal the show. Um, and both of these teams work like a really like fast, high-flying physical pace. And that's like one of the reasons why I'm such a big juniors fan is because they work a style that like really caters to me more than heavyweight sometimes. So I'm really interested in that match, and I think it's gonna be has the potential to be one of the better ones on the card. So up
Yeah,
next
I
is
think.
oh,
Oh,
sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, go
no, I was
ahead.
gonna just put like one more thing. It's like I think that like this show could be a pretty big like turning point for like United Empire. I guess we'll get to it later, but like the Kenny and Osprey match is like that'll have like a lot of like I would imagine ramifications for like New Japan in 2023. So it's just like
Absolutely,
cool
yeah.
that if like I know like the junior belts are like the ones that they like flip around often, but I'm really hoping that like United Empire gets this win and it's like they always have like a faction storyline going into New Year's Dash, and it's like this is like the year of United Empire.
One more note about that match is that I've been a someone who's watched TJP for a long time, as of a lot of people, because he was in WWE for a while and all that. But I mean, like similar to Leo Rush, like the work he's done in New Japan's been much better than what I've seen of him before. So, um, I've really enjoyed him with Akira, and it still almost makes me mad that Akira is 23 years old and doing things that 21-year-old me could not do in 2 years of training. So the next match is the IWGP Women's Title. So it's Kairi going up against Tam Nakano. So this is the second time that this belt has been online. It got introduced at the New Japan Stardom crossover event earlier this year, and it was uh, Kairi beating Mayu Iwatani. So that was a really good match. I think a lot of people were a little upset that Kairi was the first person to hold the belt. Um, I think that if I'm just going to go into my prediction here, I think that Kyrie's probably going to retain. I think that the the idea here is that Kyrie is this is the show where the entire like not just Japan, not just the US, like the wrestling world is watching. And I think that Kyrie's a very popular wrestler, especially because of her time in WWE. So I think that they want to give her sort of a moment on a big stage where she can have the belt. And I think that was really the once I saw her get the belt at that first show, I knew that okay, no matter who she faces at this next event, she's probably going to retain. Um, I think that, I don't really have a take on if she should have been the first champ or whatever. I don't really care, honestly. But I think when it comes to this match, it's probably going to be really good. I mean, both Kyrie and Tam are really good in these big match positions, so I'm certainly looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for this as well, just because like you said, the historic crossover match is pretty good. I just think that like Kyrie, like it might not be the popular choice, but it's like a good person to have because she's established, like you said, from like the WWE thing, and especially when you have like Wrestle Kingdom, which always sees like a surge in subscriptions from the West, and there's a lot of casuals that tune in where it's like people might see like oh, there's Kenny Omega, he's gonna do this match in Japan, but with Will Ospreay. But before you get to that match, you see like the IWGP Women's Title match, and also like if the sheets are to be believed, like there's gonna be some Sasha Banks slash Mercedes like running or something after this match or like an appearance. And they have like I think there's a show in San Jose coming up this month. It's either this month or next month. So it's like if they have Kyrie win here and you build to the Sasha versus Kyrie match in California, it's like a no-brainer to have her retain here. So yeah, but I just know that like this will be it's a good spot for this like title to be on the card because it's gonna expose a lot of people to the great like women's wrestling in Japan, and also like it'll be a banger. So I'm really excited for this as well because like I don't really watch a lot of like Japanese women's wrestling, but when I do, it like always is really entertaining. So I'm excited that like the rest of the world will get to see like what they have to offer.
Yeah, and I just sort of like it just sort of dawned on me while you were talking that, there's really a lot of reason for them to book something that would focus on like the North American fan base. Because you think about it, Kenny Omega is now like an AEW guy. In the US, if you ask like people like what promotion you would connect Kenny Omega to, they would all say AEW. Carl Anderson is on this, and you're also getting an audience of people who are tuning in who are Sasha Banks fans who are under the assumption that she's going to show up on this card. Obviously, we don't know for sure, but there's pretty good, people are pretty confident that she's going to show up. So I think that her versus Kyrie would be a pretty good feud, and it wouldn't surprise me if that's what they go for after this. But yeah, I personally, similar to you, like I'm not a huge, I haven't really been to Stardom too much. I followed mostly TJPW more, but this is I've been following Stardom more recently, and I'm certainly looking forward to this one. So the next tag match, it's the second match that came from the tag leagues. It's FTR, so they're coming back to this is their second appearance in New Japan, if I'm not mistaken. And they're taking on Bishamon, who won the World Tag League. That's Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi. So this is like probably one of the funniest cards on matches on the card for me because um we're gonna keep it polite here. I'm not gonna like be mean, but I haven't been like the biggest FTR fan. I think that they've done great work and they've put on amazing matches. Their match with their match on the Ring of Honor card, I'm blanking on who they
Against
faced,
the
but
Briscoes?
against the Briscoes.
Which
It
one?
was absolutely a 5-star match. And I did enjoy that one. But I don't know, just something about them, I just can't really get into it too much. And I sort of feel like they're going to drop their belts here because they've lost their Ring of Honor belts. They've lost their AAA belts. So now if they're going to appear on TV, they would just be carrying around one belt, which doesn't seem right, I guess. I don't know. The booking seems to suggest they're going to lose, but also I find it the idea of them losing to Hiroki Goto and even well, mostly losing to Yoshihashi, I find that kind of hilarious. So I don't know. This is kind of a weird match for me. I don't know. I can't really tell if it's going to be good or not. I can't really tell what's going to happen. What are your thoughts?
Okay, yeah. The thing about Yoshihashi's like funny, but also if you think about it, the fact that FTR got pinned by Dragon Lee and then he announced he was signing with WWE like 30 seconds later in a promo, like they're kind of going through it. And like I've been an FTR fan for a while, like I won't even lie, but also just like their run when they got the titles, they were like, yeah, we want to go all over the world. Like I think Dax is nursing some kind of injury. I know he had like I think it was a labrum issue he was having in the summer, like shoulder, and like I think Conan said recently that he was like happy FTR like came and dropped the belts because they're banged up. But also like I know New Japan doesn't really prioritize the tag division, but I think it's so weird that like Forbidden Door I think was in June. Was it June? And so FTR won the belts in June, didn't compete in Japan at all. They went once during their reign at Autumn Attack, had a mediocre match, which was like too bad because I was kind of hyped for them to be there. And then like their pretty much their best New Japan match was against Aussie Open at Royal Quest, which was like 5 stars. Like everyone's raving about it as a match of the year contender. But the problem with that is that like it's essentially a New Japan house show, I guess, in the UK, which wasn't even on streaming for so long after because people were begging for it to get on there. So it's like that was like my problem. And I think it's just like I really want to see Yoshihashi win just for like the cool underdog story and just to like get the damn tag belts back in Japan full time instead of them just like being a prop and like FTR does their entrance and like the bell collector gimmick. But yeah, I think like I was really rooting for Aussie Open to like get this spot because I love them as a tag team. But I think it's cool to see like the Japanese talent get rewarded and like because when Bishamon fought at Forbidden Door on the pre-show, they got a mega pop. Like people I think will tune into this match and be like really into it. And it's just like I think it'll be really good. So it's a nice spot for the boy Yoshihashi to be in and just like crazy to think that like they're probably gonna beat FTR for the tag titles. Who's like FTR is like considered one of the best tag teams in the world.
well, even if they do, it's still going to be hilarious to me. Like something about it is just I can't get over. I personally think the quality of this match is going to depend on whether FTR want to be or not, because when they
Yeah.
last appeared in Japan, I think their sole title defense in Japan, it was just kind of a lackluster match. And I don't know what it was that caused that to happen, but I just the match never really got going, and I think that this match could be much better. We'll see how it goes. Um,
Yeah.
I,
The
I
like I was gonna say too, it's like it always feels like FTR like they feed off the crowd. And when they came to Japan in the fall, it was like there was no like cheering or anything, and like it just felt they were like going through the routine. Like I knew when they were gonna do like a spot, or I was like, oh, here comes this, like here comes that. But I'm hoping that like because the crowd can be a little bit more into it this time, they'll maybe have like more to feed off of, and it'll be a more of an organic match and just like them going through the motions, doing like a best of FTR kind of like act.
yeah. So yeah, that's the one match where on this card I'm the least confident of how it will be quality wise. Like for most of them, I have a pretty strong idea of if it's going to be to my liking or not to my liking. That one I'm totally gonna have to wait and see. Next match, we have another new belt coming into the mix. This it's funny when you think about it. Belts that have been introduced either on this card or within the past year. This is the third one on this card. So it's the NJPW World Television Title match. Um, so sorry, yeah, new NJPW World, as in the service New Japan World. Their title. So the rules for this title is that it is a belt where I think the limit is 15 minutes per match.
Yep.
So it's quick matches. It's meant to be like a sort of thing that they can bring into like the internet age where you can. I think every match that happens is going to be available for free online, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
And
I think so. Yeah.
so it's just their sort of attempt at getting a more internet savvy audience into the product, which they could probably use. So this is the culmination of a tournament which has been happening all year, and the last leg of the tournament actually happened quite a while ago now. It was, I think, back in like September or October. I think it was October. But the finalists are Zack Sabre Jr. and Ren Narita. Uh, I think that you should really just take this away. You're big on Ren, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, so this is like one of the matches that I'm most hyped for on the card because like Narita, like he fought Moxley in AEW and he was still a young lion, and like he's had this excursion in the States where his whole gimmick is like he's the son of strong style, and he's like essentially he's like Katsuyori Shibata's like child, and they have like this relationship where Narita was in the Japan dojo and he asked Shibata, he was like, I want to come to the States and I want you to train me, and it's like he comes out with the towel around his neck, he wears the black trunks, like he's got the hard hitting style, but like his match against Ishii was like insane in the tournament, and it was like a lot of people. I think he got 5 stars by Meltzer. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was really raved about. And just like thing I like about these matches is that like they're a sprint. So even though Narita's like a technical wrestler, they're only 15-minute matches. So it's like my heart says that I want Narita to win. It's like New Japan is kind of betting on their guys who have returned from excursion. Like Shooter's in a pretty high profile match later in the card with Tanahashi and Keiji Muto, and then like Narita is in contention for a title. It's like the first match for this title, and it kind of reminds me. It's not the same, obviously, as like Jay White coming and beating Kenny Omega, but it like Shooter got his first match back from excursion against Will Ospreay for the U.S. title and lost, and like now Narita is going to be in a high profile, albeit 15-minute singles match, but with Suzuki-gun breaking up, like I think realistically you should have Narita maybe lose and then like Zack Sabre Jr. as the ace of this television division, although I think that's kind of below Zack Sabre Jr. Like he could easily be a world title or even a never title like guy, but I also think it's like it could be cool to have him like the ace of this like 15-minute title match. But then people have also been like, well, if Zack Sabre Jr. is gonna make a stable, like why not put Narita in there? So it'll be kind of interesting to see. Like I think there's a lot of ways they can go with this match, but I'm going like I want Narita to win so badly because he's just so cool. Like he's a cool guy to root for, and like he's has this whole entire thing where he wants to like change New Japan, and that's what his big thing has been. So this is a match that'll be really exciting, and I think like when they start putting these matches online for free for the TV title, it's going to be a great way for people to get into the like New Japan like style.
And you made a good case for both of them here, but what's your like pick if you had to?
I'm gonna go Narita just because like new title, put a new guy, and like because his moveset is kind of like I wouldn't say it's the most entertaining where it's like you want to watch him in like a 40 or 30-minute match. But if it's like 15-minute bangers, he can give you that with like any of the guys on the roster. And then like, yeah, so he'd be my pick, even though I think he'll probably lose.
Yeah, I mean, I like I like that this is like I think this is a really great matchup of styles, and one that sort of deserves that final for this tournament. I really am curious what's going to happen with this belt in terms of like how often we're going to see it, how high profile it's going to be treated. I think it's very easy for something like this to become like a never belt where it just sort of gets cast off to the side and you sort of forget about it. Like every time I see the Never Six-Man Championship, which I think is still House of Torture's property, I'm like, oh
Yeah.
wow, they're still champions. Like I forgot that they still have a belt because it's just such an insignificant thing. So I'm curious to see how this belt will go. Part of me thinks like if they want to give Ren Narita a really huge push, they sort of have to legitimize this belt. Like they have to treat the belt like it's a huge deal for him to win and for this to be considered like a push for him, right? Because like you can't really give someone a huge thrust into like the big picture of the promotion if you're like just putting a really low scale belt on them. Like what if Jay White's big push was him winning the never open weight belt? Like that wouldn't be a big push at all. So I think that the how serious this belt is treated is going to also dictate if Ren is to win, how big of a push he's getting right out of the gate. I'm curious, like, is this happening now, or are they going to wait a little? New Japan's shown in the past that they're willing to do either when it comes to booking someone. Next match is the Never Openweight Championship. This is uh now WWE wrestler, someone I saw at a WWE live event just a couple days ago. Carl Anderson putting his belt on the line against Tamatonga. Anyone who's not in the loop knows that, or anyone who's not in the loop, here's basically the rundown of it that Carl Anderson won the Never Openweight Championship. He then signed with WWE, and he has appeared a few times on New Japan cards while a being a WWE wrestler and has put his belt on the line. And there's been a lot of confusion around him. A lot of times where people have wondered, is he actually still going to be on these cards, or is he just actually like strictly a WWE guy? People wondered when his feud's going to end. He had a feud with Hikuleo, which he recently finished by beating him. And now leading up to this match, the assumption is that he's likely going to drop his belt to Tamatonga here. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. If you were to sum up my thoughts in like one sentence, it's I know the result, and I feel like I know that I won't like this.
Yeah, honestly, like my biggest thing for this match is I just feel bad for Tama Tonga because like his brother's been injured and like he shifted from like being in the Bullet Club as a tag guy to now like a baby face, and he's like pretty over as a baby face in Japan. He's like a fiery like baby face, and he's really like developed into that role. And like this is supposed to be like a crowning moment for him, but at the same time, like Carl Anderson, who is a G1 finalist, versus Carl Anderson now is like two different people, and it's like I really just pray that like Carl reaches in with every like fiber of his being to that like 2012 where he was a G1 finalist and like gives Tama a really good match because this is supposed to be like Tama Tonga's like baby face like crowning moment. He's gonna vanquish his like rival from the past who was also his like mentor when he was in the Bullet Club. But it's just like Carl Anderson phones it in. It's gonna frustrate me so much because I just think like the year that Tama Tonga has, he deserves it. But it's just like you never know with Carl Anderson. I just cross my fingers and I cross my toes that like he shows up and then he can go back to WWE and get his bag and phone it in. But like just give us one last great like Carl Anderson Japan performance for the sake of Tama Tonga having his big moment at the Dome.
I think that Wrestle Kingdom can bring some things out of people that you wouldn't otherwise see, and maybe that's possible with Carl Anderson. But the concern around phoning it in really should be there because I watched the Tag League finals just last week, and Carl Anderson, that was when he defended his belt against Hikuleo, and that was, oh my God, it was the definition of phoning it in. I thought it was the most nothing match, and reviews of it online seem to be very critical of it as well. Um, it just it was really disappointing. And I was going into that match, I was giving him a lot of benefit of the doubt. I was like, okay, listen, I haven't seen too much 2022 Carl Anderson. I would consider myself a fan of his work in the past, so let's just see how this goes. And then it was just the most nothing match ever. So I'm skeptical that this will deliver. It is unfortunately, will it be a horrible match in the picture of wrestling as as like the entire like scope of wrestling in the world? Probably not. It'll probably be fine. But the issue is it is put on one of the most high level cards of the entire year. So it is going to be under much greater scrutiny than it would be if it was on Monday Night Raw. Like it's just you simply can't even like judge it the same way when it's on this card versus anything else because it's just there's going to be such a higher standard. So we'll see how that plays out. So this next match is a six-man tag match. Um, Correct me if I'm wrong. Is this the last New Japan match for Keiji Muto?
Yes, yeah. So Keiji Muto, I think when he announced he was going to retire, he said he was going to have 5 more matches. But Keiji Muto, being one of the biggest carnies to ever exist in wrestling, he's had like every okay, you know what? I'm just gonna be the bad guy here and tell you that Keiji Muto is the Great Muta also. So if you were
What?
like listening to this and didn't know, they're the same person and like his retirement has just been like the most like drawn out retirement. Like I'm not gonna say he's Terry Funking it, but like this man has been like wrestling like every single match he's in like Great Muta's last single match, Great Muta's last match in the US. Like, bro, this guy's having the
Great
most
Muta's last match in Japan,
yeah,
or
this
no, his
guy's
his
been
last match
having
in
the
New Japan
most
was a few months ago.
last matches. He had like a New Japan match where he's like Great Muta's last tag team match or whatever it was. Like he's been having so many last matches and like trust me, like Great Muta, Keiji Muto, like his match versus Vader, one of my favorites of all time, but just like crazy. Like why are we getting letting him get away with this? Like this guy's had so many last matches, but it's one of the I'm not even gonna lie. This is like one of the ones I'm looking forward to most on the card because it's like Shooter and Naito have kind of had this like little bit of a rivalry, and I think the best thing for New Japan in this match is just like the hold up, let him cook meme. That's just like they just need to put Shooter in there against like all 3 of the guys and like give Muto like a shining wizard spot and like give Tanahashi like I don't know some like a high fly flow and sling blades, but Shooter needs to like this needs to be like a Forbidden Door with like the Eddie Kingston, Wheeler Yuta, and Shooter match, where it's just like people walk out of this and be like, yes, Shooter is like going to be a star because that's what I think this the whole point of this is. And like Naito's booking at the Dome, I know Gato's not going to put him over. Like I'm so confident about that I'm just going to say like it's going to be Shooter's show.
Well, I think that, there's certainly something to be said about Muto having the most wrestling retirement ever, which is to not really retire. Um, and by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, if someone retires in wrestling, they're a liar. No one ever retires from wrestling. You retire from wrestling once you are 6 feet under the ground. But putting that aside, I think this is just a really interesting match just because, you see this sort of booking of Tanahashi and Muto being on the same team as Shooter, as sort of this like this way of saying, hey, this is gonna be the match that we look back on in 5, 10 years, and we're gonna see, oh, they were telling us back then that he's gonna be the next big star.
Mhm.
And I think that that's sort of what they're kind of indicating with this match. Um, in terms of how it goes, I don't think that the outcome of this match, or really how this match even goes, matters. I think that they put this in the middle of the card as sort of like a break from the business part of the bookings, like the title matches and all the stuff like that. I think it's just in there as sort of like a breather. I think everyone's probably going to get some sort of cool spot in, and you know, there's really not going to be too much to write home about this match, in my opinion. But I think just the fact that it's there is interesting to me.
Mhm.
So moving on, the next match. This is like the last um normal match before we get to like I don't know if it's officially a double main event, but I guess
I think yeah, I believe it is double main.
yeah, so it's a double main event after this. So this is like the last part before what's probably going to be a 2-hour presentation of two matches. So it's a four-way for the junior heavyweight title. It's Taiji Ishimori's the champion, and he's facing El Desperado, Hiromu Takahashi, and Master Wato. Personally, I would love to see this match if it was a singles match and it was Ishimori and Takahashi. Master Wato and Desperado are just kind of there for me. I don't. I'm a Desperado fan, and I don't hate Watto. I think he's apart from his in-ring gear, which is atrocious, he's a really good wrestler, and he knows how to work. But I don't know, something about this, I would just prefer to see a singles match. This is probably gonna be fine. It probably won't go too long either, I would imagine. But Takahashi at Wrestle Kingdom is scary. He always puts himself in way more danger than he should. Part of me hopes that maybe he kind of, even though it's Wrestle Kingdom, takes it a little easy this year. It's a four-man, just do one crazy spot and then let everybody else take over. What are your thoughts about this match?
Yeah, my thing with Master Wato is like the way I see it is he's either gonna eat the pin or he's gonna win the match. And I don't know which one I like pull more towards because like I think it would be kind of cool for him to like get this moment of like him having like a coming out performance and like being taken seriously and winning the championship, but also just like I don't know if it's believable for like his character to like do that. And I'm a huge fan of Desperado, but like I don't know. I think like Hiromu is ultimately going to come away with the title here just because like he's the ace of the division. And yeah, it seems like we're never going to get the Hiromu like heavyweight push. But I don't know. I think this match would be like 20 to 35 minutes. Like I can't see it going an hour, but I think it'll be like a really fun car crash, like wrestling match. And then, yeah, it's a good setup right before like the top of the card.
Well, I think what's great about it being a four-way is that it can probably be longer, but also keep like a crazy pace. Uh,
Mhm.
I just tallied in my head while you were talking, like how many title changes I'm predicting so far, and I think I got two on the card. So I have Bishamon and Tamatonga, and then Kyrie's gonna retain, and I have Catch 2 retaining. So I think it would make sense for Takahashi to win the belt here. I think that and also later in the card we'll talk about my predictions there, but I think it's like it would make sense for him to win the belt here. He can have that big moment. I'm not too like I'm ignorant to some things. I don't know. I didn't know like Master Wato was like that close to getting a title victory. Like um but I mean I would like a Takahashi win. I'm not like raving about this match, but I do think it's gonna be good. I mean, if this match ends up being bad or even just like lackluster, I would be surprised.
Yeah, I think this will be really good. Like the juniors always like go crazy, so
Do you
I'm
have
looking forward to this one.
do you have any clue how this match was made? Like what caused it to be a four-way?
No, I honestly don't know. I'm reading like the summary right now, but it's like starts back in May and then um there's a lot of like Kushida didn't get a match, and then Wato. I think Master Wato pinned I swear Wato pinned Ishimori at some point or he won like a big match to get like um yeah, here he was. He won Master Wato won on October 10th in Ryogoku. And then Ishimori had no choice to defend the title with not one, but three. I'm just reading this right from the website. It's not even my own promo. Um, and Ishimori has no choice but to defend his title against contenders, but will do so with the longest gap between title matches in the belt's 35-year history. So
Hmm. That's
some
funny. I didn't want to
interesting,
say it out loud because maybe I thought I could have been wrong, but I was thinking like when was the last time this belt was even on the line? Like
yeah.
I've
So it's
seen him
like
carried around for so long.
some interesting lore and like yeah, I can't imagine Ishimori comes out of this match the champion, but I think it'll be like it has sneaky banger potential on this card.
So the next match is certainly the match that I think you and I both are looking forward to the most. Can we agree on that?
People's main.
Yeah, this is the people's main event. I would argue, and it's kind of apt, this is for the United States Championship. I would say that this is the match that the fans in North America at least are looking forward to the most. So it's the IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion, that's Will Ospreay, and he's going up against AEW's Kenny Omega. So this match, I have this like maybe conspiracy theory at best that this match has been in the works for like more than a year.
Yeah.
There was at some point during the summer, Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay started trading, barbs online. They started talking about each other on Twitter. Ospreay put out like a merch T-shirt to troll Kenny Omega. And then AEW had this huge dumpster fire with CM Punk and all the wrestlers getting into a backstage exchange, and it resulted in Omega being suspended. And part of me thinks that um, you know, the fact that you know, all that rivalry stuff happened, and then there was just like silence all of a sudden, made me think that okay, they were clearly like doing this long build to Wrestle Kingdom. But then Kenny Omega returned a few months ago, and he called out via video promo Will Ospreay at Historic Crossover, and that's how this match was made. So, I just want to hear your thoughts about this match to start. I have a lot to say about this match, and for anyone who's tuning in for like some sort of unique criticism or critique, from me it's gonna be mostly praise. So maybe tune out if you're listening for that. But I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, well, just to add to like the lore of this match, there's also like the Elite versus United Empire in the AEW Trios title tournament back in the summer, and the Elite won that match. And then like I also think that like there's also like this rumor from like the dirt sheets. I'm probably gonna misquote it, but it was like when there was like the locker room speeches, Kenny Omega like told people that like he wouldn't hire anybody like in the company because none of them can wrestle like Will Ospreay, and like he loves Will Ospreay like out of the ring, and was like pointing at like this is like the standard you have to be at. And like it's kind of unique that like Kenny was like the guy who got like tapped on the shoulder to like move up from junior to heavyweight when like AJ Styles left, like Luke Gallows left, like Carl Anderson left, and it's like the Elite leave, and like I don't really think it was like the same kind of handpicked thing where like Osprey gets the tap on his shoulder and says, "Hey, you're going up to heavyweight." It was kind of like a Osprey like was just too good to like stay as a junior forever, and like in the pandemic, he kind of like to me in this match, he honestly kind of feels like a baby face where it's like he was one of the only foreigners. I think like him and Jack Sabre Jr. were like the only guys for the entire pandemic that stayed. Like they both stayed. Like Osprey put on a ton of size when he came back in 2020, like was moved up to heavyweight. Like people thought he was gonna win the G1 twice. I just think like this should be the match that really like people say that like Osprey should lose and like go for the heavyweight title, but I think as long as like Jay White is around, there won't be like a true big show of like two foreigners main eventing. But I just think like this should be like Osprey's moment where he sort of like cements himself, and even in my opinion will like surpass Jay White as like the flag bearer for like foreigners in New Japan. It's like here's Kenny Omega, like the legend of Kenny Omega, who is hasn't had a singles match that's not on AEW Dark since 2021 of Full Gear. And it's like if you beat Kenny Omega, you're sort of like a made guy. And like Osprey's obviously already a made guy, but I think this is like that feather in his cap of like not only does it elevate the US title to like sort of like a 1A and 1B of the top titles, but also like it'll cement Osprey as like a true franchise player in New Japan who like he never left, he stayed the course, and like he really deserves to win this match in my opinion. Like I can't his body of work has been so good over the past years that like usually I'm a huge Kenny guy and I root for him, but I think like Osprey deserves to win this match so badly.
It's almost when you give it that background, it's almost like a passing of the torch in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah,
You have
exactly.
Kenny Omega, this guy who, oh, you could argue had this like unprecedented push for a foreign wrestler in New
Hmm.
Japan, where he was brought to the very top of the promotion, um, and now you're seeing someone like Will Ospreay who's had that very similar push. And I think I would go with the same prediction that he's going to win this match and retain his belt. I think that I would personally disagree on the idea that this match could bring him above Jay White. I think that when you look at the long-term booking of New Japan and how I think since 2019 now it's been them very trying really hard to make Jay White their next big foreign name. I still think that they are at the end of the day going to value him over Will Ospreay when it comes to who's their top guy. But I mean, when it comes to Will Ospreay, just career wise, I think that this is not the culmination of things as of late, but it feels like just a very important moment for him because he has been he's been like in my personal opinion, one of the kings of big matches in recent years. That when you put him on a big card and when you put him in a singles match, you know that he is going to, with anyone, put together a 20-30 minute masterpiece. And uh for him to face Kenny Omega here, I think it's really great. And I think that it's a great example of how these crossovers are so great. I mean, this is a card in general where you're seeing more crossovers than ever really, and or more crossovers than you usually get on Wrestle Kingdom. and it's really cool to see a crossover like this where it's a big match, and Omega's, he's not going to be on TV this week because he has to attend this event and work this match. Um, but yeah, I'm big on it. I think that it would only make sense for Will to win, but uh, I think that this is probably going to be the best match on the card.
Yeah, I have just a couple like things. Like it's kind of cool. I think that like Kenny Omega, like they basically made this title for him, like first champion. Like he got to be the guy to carry it. Now it's like he's back, like fighting in the double main. But also just like I wonder, like, what do you think if like Osprey wins or loses? Like, do they pivot him and like the rest of the United Empire to like a because the people like United Empire, like Great O'Khan, like I think he's like kind of a baby face-ish character. Like, do they pivot Will to like be a like baby face chasing, or is he just like still a heel after? Because I feel like after this, like people are gonna have I feel there's like a lot of sympathy for him like going into this match. Not like where it's like it kind of reminds me of like not in the same kind of vein, but like when Hangman was like, "Oh, I have to defend AW from you," like when he faced like Punk, and it's kind of like Kenny's coming back, but like Will has been there, like he stayed the course, and it's like he's defending like what he loves from Kenny, who's coming back as like the big bad.
What's funny is I almost sort of when I think about United Empire right now, I think about how Bullet Club was 5 or so years ago, where they're in this kind of troubling position where they are heels and they are booked as heels, but they are just so over and everyone
Yeah,
likes them. I don't know how over they are in the American fan base, but when you see the crowds and you see the merch, you can tell that like Los Ingobernables is still the number one merch mover, but like it wouldn't surprise me if like right behind them is United Empire. Like they have a lot of fans. And I think it's also really interesting that like Bullet Club at one point was the sort of the foreign wrestler faction, and now you really see United Empire as that, where you think about all the big names who are in United Empire, it's all international names. So I I don't know how you book them because they are so painfully heel. I don't know how you can book a faction like United Empire and keep Gideon Gray in it. And I think that you need to keep Gideon Gray because, well, I selfishly love him as a manager,
yeah, I love him as well.
but I I don't know what you do with them. I think that Bullet Club succeeded through all those years trying to be a heel facing faction just despite being super over. So maybe they're just gonna say, you know what, we're just gonna book these guys as heels and people are gonna like them anyway and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that United Empire it wouldn't surprise me if like that sort of era we've talked about before of like United Empire being like not sort of dominant in a sense. I wouldn't surprise me if that continues on this card. Do you have any final thoughts before we get to the final thing here?
Man, oh, on the bingo card, Kota Ibushi appearance in Kenny Omega's corner? Yes or no?
Absolutely not. I'm saying absolutely not.
Yeah, I'm saying no as well. Even though Kenny wore the Ibushi shirt on Dynamite, I think like it won't happen, but I would
I
love to
think
be proven
I think
wrong.
Kota Ibushi is now lacking any subtlety in the sense that he is waiting for his contract to expire.
He put the tweet out, one more month, freedom.
Yeah, he's been putting tweets out, counting down the days, posting the day that he's free. He's been taking selfies with everybody who is not signed to New Japan, like literally everybody. Um, yeah, I would say no. But that can go on the bingo card. I mean, I need to tonight put some brain power towards a bingo card that we can have for the show. So yeah, the evening is going to close out with Jay White going up against Kazuchika Okada. This is really like when you talk about names who have been headliners for New Japan for the past 5 years. Jay White,
Yeah.
in the earlier years, Jay White wasn't really part of that, but Okada is the epitome of that, really. Someone who's been in the title picture for, this incredibly long amount of time now. Um, so this is a kind of a really grand Wrestle Kingdom match. What are your just general thoughts on it?
General thought is like I hope that the wrestling analytics people can find like a watch time metric of like how many people stay after like in North America stay to watch this match after like the US title match. Because like me personally, I think like the build for this match has sucked. Like in all honesty, it's just been like it's your premier like title. No there's like no briefcase defenses. Like there was no like struggle for Okada, and it's just sort of like Jay has like kind of been around, but he hasn't like he just sort of like does this gimmick of like trying to get the crowd to break. And like I'm a huge Jay White fan, but it just feels like this match has sort of gotten lost in the shuffle of like Kenny Omega is coming back against Will Ospreay, which is like the match everybody wants to see. And then it's like people just assume that Okada is gonna win because it's like he won for Inoki and he wants to like take back the top title from New Japan from evil Jay White for Inoki, even though like I would love to see Jay White win just because like I've kind of had enough. Like Okada, I can respect him as a great wrestler. He's just never been one of my favorites to like root for, and I'd love for the show to end with like Jay White standing tall. But like I know though, like I know they'll put on a banger. Like Jay White is probably one of the best like counter wrestlers like on the planet, and he just has like this really great slow and methodical pace to him that is entertaining to watch. But just like this is probably like the match where it's gonna be like 4 or 5 in the morning, and I'm gonna be like, okay, let's see what's gonna happen. Because like I'm not really that like hyped for it. I can't even lie. Like I'm just like it's gonna be a good match, but like I'm not really fired up for it.
This might be like a hot take. I'm a huge Okada fan. I'm a massive Jay White fan. But just part of me is just like I'm so sick of living in their eras, you know? And like something about Okada like having this triumphant Wrestle Kingdom moment, I'm just like I don't know, like I can't get myself excited for it.
Another triumphant moment.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. Nothing feels new about this match. I think that's the issue is that I look at this match and it feels like I've seen this match
Yeah,
a million
exactly.
times. I think it's going to be an incredible match. Both of these guys are, you know, absolutely capable of putting on a Wrestle Kingdom main event worthy match. I do think Okada is going to win. And I think you basically said the same thing, right?
Yeah, like I'm kind of swayed. Like I'm gonna go just for the sake of us splitting this prediction. I'm gonna go Jay White just because like it just feels like I don't know. Gato's always got like something up his sleeve. Like I always just think like Jay White. It just seems too obvious to me that like maybe I'm just like overthinking this, but it just seems like way too obvious that like Okada's gonna go over at the dome. The fans are back cheering, and we're gonna celebrate with like woohoo, Okada, our hero, like our savior, the ace of the generation. Like, um, but I don't know. I think it'll be sick to see like the evil like Jay White, and then you like set it up for the year of like who is gonna like take back the power of New Japan from Jay White.
I think what's great is that since this is such a new belt, you can have a lot of firsts. If Okada wins, he will be the first ever two-time holder of this belt. So I don't know. I mean, I, I I am excited for this match just off the premise that it's going to be Okada and Jay White putting together a Wrestle Kingdom match. But the other aspects, the storyline and everything like that, I can't get too into. The issue of what do you do after this is certainly big. I don't really know. Obviously, they don't build that on this card really. But just looking forward, I when you think about okay, Okada's the champion or okay, Jay White's the champion, what do you do next? My mind just kind of draws a blank. Uh,
Babyface Taichi.
yeah, exactly. We need babyface Taichi. He dropped Miho Abe. He's focused now.
He's looking
Uh,
for love. Like
he's looking for love. He almost found it on the historic crossover show. But yeah, no Tai Chi on this card. I'm very sad about that. But yeah, I mean, as much as I sort of am critical of not really understanding like where to go after this or like the not liking the like not really noticing much of an importance in the outcome of this match, I do think it's gonna be a good match. And
hmm,
just off that, I'm still excited for it. So that's going to be the main event of the card, and then after that, we will go into the new generation of or the new year. I mean, I always this is always the start of the year, but I always consider it like the last thing before you like get like that season premiere type. Like
yeah,
this is like very much the season finale despite being the start of a new year. So overall, that's the card. We went through it all. I apologize to anyone listening if I made any errors due to my um, due to not knowing about as much New Japan stuff as some people. I am overall very excited for this card, and I will be watching it live. Even though the other day I was up all night covering Ryzen, and by the end of it, I was like, I never want to do this again. But yeah, so I'm excited for it, and that's our total rundown of the card. I want to thank everyone for listening. Before we get going, Gavin, any plugs you got?
No, just plug. I'm plugging Wrestle Kingdom 'cause it's gonna be an amazing show. No
Um,
sponsors, but yeah, just it's gonna be awesome. Like I'm so excited. Like I've been saying like the past like month that I haven't been this excited about a New Japan show in like quite a while, and it feels like we're finally coming out of like this dark pandemic period, and that like the New Japan we knew that got us into like invested in New Japan is like finally back after a couple of years away.
yeah, I mean, when I think about like the years that got me into New Japan, I get this nostalgia, and it almost feels I almost feel bad because it's like I don't want to get a nostalgia about that. I want to feel it now, you know? And hopefully we can feel it now. This what is it, Tuesday it happens?
Tomorrow,
I guess
yeah, I think tomorrow,
yeah, I guess it
Tuesday.
technically would be Wednesday. I don't know. Time zones are confusing. Um I don't really have any plugs either. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Jackwanan, JackWannan. I don't tweet about wrestling too much, but I do tweet about it sometimes. So if you like that, or if you like other journalism stuff, make sure to give me a follow. That is all for now, and I appreciate everyone who tuned in. Take care. See ya.